time for the last in this series of multi-table functions, and number 3 is an angle grinder. Except it's not an angle grinder anymore, it's now a disc sander. Disc sander, though, is probably also not a very accurate term. Rough wood shaper and slight scorcher is perhaps a better term. Obviously, this is not designed for sanding wood, it's designed for grinding metal. However, I have found it very useful when I have some rounding to do or some fairly heavy and rough wood shaping to take care of. Much easier having it mounted in the table. Maybe I can find some, softer pads for it, or even just glue some sandpaper on here, because what ends up happening inevitably is once I finish shaping, I've got to get the finishing sander out to polish off the burn marks. So it's not perfect, but it is jolly good fun. I'm really loving learning how to use the angle grinder, and putting it to work as a woodworking tool is going to give me much better value out of it too. So let's take a quick look at how this works, and then we can see how I went about mounting it into the table. Something has taken that corner off. So it certainly ain't quiet, and it certainly ain't pretty, but it will remove wood fairly quickly. Obviously didn't have anything in mind there, but I have used it for shaping curves, particularly on edges of wood, and it works very, very well. So a rough and ready option. It was good fun to make. Let's see how we did it. Oh, I should probably point out, if this is the first of my videos that you've seen, then this whole inset table setup isn't going to come naturally to you. Click on the flag up here in the corner and it'll take you to the 3-part saga for the final time of how I made not only the table, which is I think part 1 and 2, but these wooden insets in part 3. Enjoy! First things first, center it up on the base. Go mark outside. Bit of thunder. Plunge router with plunge base. Couldn't be bothered taking it off the table base to make the hole to start the jigsaw. Let's see if this works. You know what? Let's not plunge through onto the good table. That's why God invented offcuts. Using a base to cut a base, it's like baseception. Base inception continues. It's been a really good test of my new inverted jigsaw. Got to work on that burning. I haven't got any tips on that. Must be moving too slow or turning too sharp. But anyway, I got the hole for my disc sander cut. Need some cleaning up though. Watch how easy this is going to be. Old base, out. Corded tools. Who uses corded tools? Router base, in. Now I can just raise up the bidet, clean around those edges. How easy is that? Trying to set up fences and measuring and doing everything with the router freehand. Don't need any of that because I can see exactly where I'm cutting. Well, at least I would be able to once I've got the vacuum set up, but I need to build the fence for that, and that's a project for another day. Let's finish this one first. When I started that, you also may have noticed I was going clockwise, and I quickly remembered that that's not the best way to do it. Because the blade is spinning in a clockwise direction, if you go in with the cut like that, as I was before, it can make it run away from you. So always travel in an anti-clockwise direction. So that's the position I want it in. Got the burn guard down here. It's going to get all the sawdust hopefully collection quite nicely. You've just got to figure out a way to make that nice and secure. Some progress on stage 3 of the multifunction table. I scrapped my earlier idea of trying to put a hook over the handle of the angle grinder. It was just going to leave the blade too high, and I want to be able to get in smoothly on the table like this. I'm obviously only going to be able to do really small bits of wood. This is purely going to be for corners. I can actually file stuff on it because it is a proper grinding plate. It's going to have a few small functions, obviously not as good as a real disc sander, but it'll help me out a lot on the little things that I want to sand down. So I've taken off the handle here. I've extended the cut on the hole just so it fits in nice and safe. That also gives me easy access to the power switch and be able to turn it on and off under there. So all I'm going to do, I think, to put this down, I was thinking of some bungee cord, but I want something a little bit safer than that. Chop off a piece of wood, make a U shape that's going to go over the top, 2 little runners down here and here, and then some wing nut bolts that I can just use to attach that mini clamp over the top, and this will be a very safe little addition to the workbench. Talk about dumb luck, that's nearly perfect the first time. So just going to glue and screw these 2 bits together, drill the holes for the wing nuts, and a tiny bit of sanding in here. It's going to have my angle grinder nice and safe as a mini disc sander. From a little piece of offcut, I just quickly knocked out this little brace just to hold the thing steady. Pre-drilled these holes for the nail so that it wouldn't split the wood too much. And now all I need to do is mount that down like so. Drill the holes for the wing nuts. Then do a little trimming just along here to try and square up that spinning disc, so I can push things against it and have them come out at least kind of straight. I think I'm done with my first 3 plates for my multi-function workbench. Let's take a look at how the last one goes together. Base plate. Grinder. Battery. Clamp fence, wing nuts. That really is not going anywhere, so we are nice and safe, which on YouTube is a good thing because otherwise people yell at you. Last thing we need, power. Sensational. That brings project 2 to a close pretty much. I can finally actually start making some of the things that I wanted to make when I started on this new hobby. So I've got my pegboard builders project 1. It has been so easy to use this so far. Changing out the bits, the router bit, the inverted jigsaw, and now the disc sander. It only takes a couple of minutes. Of course, I don't even need to take that fence off if I'm just switching the piece in and out constantly. Going to be absolutely invaluable, and just shows you don't need to buy really expensive bench tools that will take up a lot of space in a garage that needs to have a car in it 90% of the time. You can convert your hand power tools into useful, if not quite as good, similes of those tools. One day I will have a giant workshop and I'll fill it with all beautiful things that cut much easier, but for now, I'm happy with this result. Catch you next time. I nearly forgot the most important step. Christening it. Cheers.